Hey guys, so welcome to the next episode of the show. And today I have a friend of mine here, Greg Faxton. And I met Greg on a Lead Pages summit we did together. And I reached out to guests and he said, okay, I definitely want to be interviewed and stuff like that. So I wanted to have him on there. So Greg, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, a pleasure. It's a pleasure, man. Because I know we connected and we exchanged a few messages right after the Lead Pages Summit, and we tried to organize something, but it never came through. But I figured this would be a perfect opportunity to reconnect. Now, I guess with that, so tell us a bit about what it is that you do, because I really wanted to introduce you to my audience. So just tell us a bit about what you got going on right now.
Sure. So I help coaches fill their client roster.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I do that, that's a bit different from what you may have seen out there in terms of business coaches is, when I got into the game, I found that every business coach was sort of promoting their system. It was like, this is the one way that is the best way to get clients. And of course, they were teaching what had worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I learned a lot from mentors and coaches, and I continue to invest in that. The problem that I found was that if a certain mentor was my personality and had my strengths,
Mm-hmm.
then it worked really well, right? Because their one way fit the way that was going to work best for me. Are we good? I know we broke up a little bit.
Oh, no, we're good. I was just setting some stuff
And
down.
and so, but if the person was a different personality, a different profile set of strengths, it didn't work that well for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do with people is I help them figure out what their coaching archetype is. We can dive in a little bit to that. And then based on their unique archetype, their personality and strengths, that's how we help them generate leads. And that way it's something that they enjoy doing, they're consistent at it, and they're actually going to master one or two things that fit their personality instead
Mm-hmm.
of always jumping to the next shiny marketing tactic and never really nailing down any single tactic.
Okay. So you mentioned something interesting here. So you said in terms of your process, you don't go based on the technique. You go more based on you help individuals based on figuring out what do you call it, the archetype you said?
Yeah, coaching archetypes. So
Uh,
there's three archetypes. There's three primary archetypes,
mm-hmm.
and I can kind of go through what each one is, but I want people to know who are listening, you're going to probably see yourself in more than one archetype. Like any personality test, you're going to see yourself in more than one, but everyone has a primary one. And when you're starting out, when you're getting to that 10K, 20K per month mark, you really want to just focus on one or two strategies that fit that archetype. That's your primary. Then you can expand out once you have a team and once you've already mastered a few of them and have them running. So these archetypes, I first had the idea based on a book I read by Malcolm Gladwell called The Tipping Point. So he talks about three types of people who spread ideas. There's mavens, connectors, and salespeople. All right, mavens, connectors, salespeople. And so I've adapted that frame because that's based on good research. It made a lot of sense to me. And I was, actually the clients I've worked with to help them build their coaching business really fall into these three types as well. So mavens are teachers. They're really good at researching, breaking down processes step by step, and then teaching those to people. And so mavens typically do best with strategies that involve thought leadership. So for example, I'm a Maven. A lot of how I get clients is publishing long articles on my blog that people search out. Then they download a lead magnet, they're on my list, etc. But that hub is those long form how-to articles, right? I love producing those. I'm good at it. Other things that work well are like workshops in person or online, anything where you're getting an opportunity to teach.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an example of a Maven and a few Maven strategies. Okay. It also even plays into how what you might offer in terms of a coach. So like for me, I always include live training and stuff as part of my offerings.
Right.
And I tend to do more group programs and courses and stuff like that. I only work with a small handful of people one-on-one, right? Because Mavens want to be teaching and only a part of coaching is really teaching, right? So that's the Maven. Any questions on that before I go through the
Oh
other two
no,
types?
that's fascinating. I haven't heard it said that way before, but that's fascinating. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
So the second archetype is a connector. And when I look at I have a quiz actually, gregfaxon.com/quiz. So gregfaxon, FAXON.com/quiz. And when I look at the breakdown, most of my audience is actually connectors, about 54%. And I think that's because of what coaching attracts, just what that profession attracts. But connectors, just like it sounds like, they love building relationships. And we were talking before we hopped on, and I asked what made you decide to do these interviews and double down on that. And you said you realized the biggest thing for you throughout the years has been the relationships you've built. That tends to be what produces the most clients. And I don't know if you're a connector or you haven't taken the quiz yet, but when I'm working with a connector, we want to focus on strategies that take advantage of their natural ability to build relationships, right? So things like referral partners, right? Things like having an interview podcast or partnering up with someone who already serves your niche, but in a complementary way, not in a competitive way, right? Going to in-person networking events, or even if you're starting out, networking on Facebook groups or something like that. So relationship-oriented strategies work well for connectors. Third archetype is salespeople. Salespeople are naturally persuasive. They're naturally charismatic. What tends to work best for salespeople, besides obviously just getting in strategy sessions, making sure you're actually having those consults with potential clients, is anything that allows people to be around your energy, your vibe. So for example, if I'm working with a salesperson, I'm going to have them use video before I have them write, because video is going to transfer more of that charisma, right? And especially if it's live video, even better. If it's a live event in person, even better, right? Because that's helping people be around your energy field. You're naturally motivating, inspirational. So the strategies we have that person do are all based around persuasion, using their charisma. And obviously there's lots of tactics under each of those archetypes, but that's where I start. Because if you give a Maven a salesperson tactic and say, hey, here's your main source of leads, go run with that, it's not going to last, you know? And so what I see in the business coaching space that's a problem is it's almost like if someone comes to you and they want to lose weight and you're like, great, I just want you to cycle. You're going to be a cycler now. I hope you get into cycling. That's how you're going to lose weight. It's like, that's great if the person was naturally wired to love cycling and to be good at it. If not, obviously they're going to fall off the plan.
Right. That is awesome, man. I've never heard this said this way before. So you said Mavens, connectors, and salespeople. That is so interesting, because I found that when it comes to strategy, because like you were saying earlier, when it comes to strategies, like everyone says, hey, here's the one thing that's going to work. Here's the one thing that's going to work. But you're the first person I've heard say that it's not about the techniques, because different techniques are going to work for different people. It's more based on the personalities, those archetypes. That's so brilliant. So I believe that that philosophy, that's how you get people results. Because at the end, I know that for a lot of individuals who buy into these different coaching programs, all these different things, they come in trying to implement a strategy, just like you said, whether it's trying to implement maybe a salesperson strategy when they should be trying to implement maybe a Maven strategy, or those different things. So I guess, how did you stumble upon this concept? Like, what made you? I guess, why did you delve deep into making that the core? Is that, would you say, as a core foundation of your programs and what you teach and how you work with clients?
It's become that way. You know, it wasn't always, I had to notice this trend of, wow, there's these 3 different types of clients, and sort of map it. I think I also had that insight when I read Gladwell's book, and sort of like, how can I map this on? Because I realized that not every client is totally unique. Let's be honest. There's certain principles you just need to follow, you know, if you're not having any conversations with potential clients, you're not going to get high ticket coaching clients, right? If you don't have any way to get awareness at all, no one knows about you, you're not going to get high ticket coaching clients, right? If you have no structure on how to do those enrollment calls, you're probably not going to be able to sell high ticket. So there are principles, and there's overall steps that people need to master, but especially when it comes to the marketing, the lead generation side of things, I think I just realized over time, you know, different things are working for different people that they're able to be consistent with, but it's not like we have to start from scratch each time. There are certain archetypes that I can match to these groups. And frankly, part of it came from just my love of fitness and background of fitness. I worked with an online coach one time, and his whole system, his name's Christian Thibodeau, and his whole system is actually based on something called neurotyping, which is like based on your brain chemistry. here's how you should program your strength training. So some people do really well with like the mind muscle connection, high rep stuff. Other people are more suited to power, lower rep stuff. So I kind of nerd out on that, but I was like, well, that's actually really unique. When he created programming for me, I loved it and I was consistent, couldn't wait to get into the gym. But it also made it, just frankly, like let's call this what it is. Like it made it so I couldn't work with anyone else but him now. So I'm like, he took my neurotype, he knows what my type is. So how can I now go to another trainer because they're just going to give me a program that might not work for me. Right. So I think it's a great way to position, obviously. And I just found that clients were getting better results when we customize that part of the process to them.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So in essence, that's very interesting, man. I'm surprised we're just now having this conversation. So I guess what are you seeing in terms of what else do you see in terms of mistakes as far as maybe say coaches, consultants make besides the those 3 types you mentioned? Are there any other mistakes you see that prevents results from happening?
Sure. So I think that, we talked about one mistake is not starting with your archetype, not fitting the strategy to your archetype. Mm-hmm. Another mistake is going out of sequence. Okay, going out of sequence. So when I see a coach who's consistently stuck at an income goal and they're not able to break through, right? Could be that they're not using strategies for their archetype. Could be that they're trying to do things that aren't for the stage that they're at. Like I'm sure you've had this. People approach you and they say, I should probably be building a course right now. And you're like, well, you're making $4,000 a month, right? You have no audience. Why would you be considering making a course? And it's going to take you 8 weeks. You're not selling, doing anything else because you're building the thing. You have no one to sell it to, and it's low ticket. So you're going to have to sell a lot of them to actually hit your income goals. Right. And so I think that's an example of going out of sequence. That's really going to hurt you because you're going to be trying to do, or people, I was talking to a client today and she was asking me about how I think about the structure on business, like how I break down roles with my team. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of like, honestly, don't worry about that right now. Like right now, you just have to focus on selling. Like delegate anything that doesn't help you sell, maybe get a really good VA, but you don't have to think about what's my organizational chart right now? Because let's just get you to a revenue level where it would warrant more of that conversation. And so going out of sequence is a big thing I see.
Yeah, that is so critical. Now, do you have a set sequence as far as what's the what are you seeing as a progression as far as maybe say a sequence, someone that the not saying the best sequence, but the right one to kind of take if someone's maybe say just getting started to where they could maybe get up to maybe say 10K per month or something? Do you have any type of sequence like that you've kind of outlined?
Sure. So let's assume that this person is making maybe like less than 1K a month, but they've worked with paid clients. They're not like, it's still not a dream. They know that they can actually provide value for something. Right. So with this person, first thing that I'd focus on is tapping into their warm network. Okay. In some way, shape, or form. I think people undervalue that and they assume, well, no one here, I met people through different things. So none of my followers on my personal Facebook profile, like they're not going to be clients. Like I don't want to sell to friends and family. And you don't just have to sell to friends and family, but people discount. No one knows what you're doing and you've already built trust with those people. Right. So either someone that you met in an improv class you took 2 years ago, like they could need this, or they could know someone who needs this. So I typically have people put out some sort of free session offer to their warm network to tap into that low-hanging fruit first. Frankly, that could get you to 10K per month if you do it correctly.
Right.
The other thing is starting to refine your offer. What is that high ticket offer that you can charge 3K to 10K for, right? And I know that because I've seen your stuff, you preach the same thing. Like, I don't want people to $99 their way to 10K. Like, let's just get a couple 5K clients a month, right? That's doable. That's going to allow you to invest in those people, to focus on them, to not get burnt out. And then we can go to group programs. Then we can go to courses. But in a similar way as Tesla started selling their most expensive car first, like let's get the high ticket in place. And then we can use that to fund all our other offerings. And also, to go back to the course thing, you don't know what the course should be because you've never really helped enough people through this. What would the curriculum even be? Right? You haven't noticed the patterns yet. So creating a high ticket offer that's either one-on-one, or if they've already done some of that and gotten some results, maybe small group. All right. Knowing who it's for, what problem they're solving, how it's different from the other solutions out there. So they have one thing that they're really confident and they can stand behind. So they're getting some clients from their warm network with that offer. They're validating it. The next thing that I would focus on is some sort of freebie, some sort of lead magnet. Right. Again, you can validate this with your warm network. I don't want them going on running Facebook ads or something as a way to validate it. Just say, hey, I put together this guide or this checklist on this thing. If you want it, comment below, let me know. See if people are even interested, then go build the thing. And then once you validate it, then you can set up some sort of landing page. This is when I start to help clients build out some sort of pipeline. So what I waited for years, and I kick myself now that I didn't do it earlier because someone told me to do it. And of course, like an idiot, I didn't do it. This is just a simple tweak in the pipeline, is having some sort of thank you page after they download that thing that leads to a strategy session with you. And that's such an easy tweak to book people's calendars up that I don't think they realize. Like, someone may not have gone to book a session with you, but there's something about downloading that freebie and taking that one step forward that really builds momentum and can get people on your calendar. So the next thing I do is put that pipeline together. That's when we'd focus on what is going to be your main lead source for people outside of your network. And of course, that's based on your archetype. So let's master 1 or 2 ways of getting in front of new people. Now we have this freebie, this pipeline. Anytime you go on an interview, if that's one of your tactics, anytime you write an epic blog post, right? Anytime you shoot a live video, now you can actually get people migrated onto your calendar and onto that list. So that's kind of the condensed version of what I would focus on with someone who is under 10K a month.
Yeah, that is so brilliant. So, and another question I'd like to ask as well too is, so for yourself, right? Because I believe that we all have, just based on our journey, there's something, a core thing that's gotten us to where we've gotten to today. Just like I was interviewing my friend June, and one of the things she shared was her process called CPR. But she had some type of process she shared that says, hey, for my success, what really got me here was this specific thing. Do you have any type of one thing that you would say that's the core thing? If it wasn't for that thing, I probably wouldn't have created this much success myself in my life, in my business. Do you have anything like that you could share?
I do. Obviously I have the system and the acronym that I teach my clients. I'm not going to, we could go through that, but I don't know how interesting it would be. The honest answer, because I developed that system after, right? I kind of looked back and reverse engineered it. Right. I didn't know it at the time. Honestly, it's just, there's just a little bit of discipline involved that I think a lot of people aren't prepared for when it comes to building a coaching business. And for me, like being a wrestler, who was an All-American in high school, having that experience in sports, I think builds a discipline that if you don't have that, it almost makes it hard to implement the strategies. Because like, let's be honest, there's some perseverance involved. Like, I think everyone just wants to become a coach, start making money, but there's going to be a process of you having to execute, even if you don't feel like it necessarily on a given day. And so I think that if someone's had a background to develop some sort of discipline, like I know for you, were you in the Navy?
Marines.
Right. So like, obviously you're going to have that foundation. And so it just makes everything else easier. And that's one of those things it's harder to teach, frankly. Now, for some people building their business, that's their rite of passage. That's going to be the thing that teaches them discipline. And so we gotta help those people out too. For me, I can just say, I think the main factor has just been discipline, being able to execute. Because at that point, even if you have a shitty system, you're still going to make it happen. In the end, it's just going to take longer.
Yeah, that is so powerful. I know a lot of individuals, and that's one thing with my own coaching programs as well too. That's definitely a core of what we focus on, because I realize at the end of the day, like if you don't have a mindset of like doing whatever it takes, you probably won't make it, because most individuals, I realize, they come in more based on just seeking information versus others who say, I got to implement this stuff. I got to take action and make stuff happen versus trying to hope it happens. And I know for the COVA program is really based on that mindset, which is you got to develop that discipline, because if not, just like with COVID-19, which happened where everyone is pushed online and people are trying to figure out, how do I make an income? How do I make a living? Is this even possible? And I watched like my friends, like June, 3 weeks into it, she's already crushing it, and she's new to the online world. But I kind of saw how she had that type of mindset, and that's when I realized that, man, like if we don't, at least for my clients as well, so if I don't help them develop this type of mindset really quick, again, a lot of them probably won't make it because there's just too competitive. We're not just competing for clients in our city or our town anymore, especially if you're online. It's like the playing field is even. You're competing from people from Dubai, from Australia, from Italy, from everywhere. So if you don't have that mindset and that, hey, I'm going to show up and do whatever it takes, then there's no way you could really get to that next level in there. So the next question I have for you, Greg, because I know you've been doing this for a while as well too. So what would you say drives you? What wakes you up in the morning to say, hey, this is what I've chosen. This is what my life is going to be about. What drives you at the moment?
You know, Jim Rohn is one of the grandfathers of like our whole industry, right? Like a lot of what is taught in mindset and business really is just kind of coming downstream from him. He has something that he talks about, which is the real reason to pursue any goal and to set a goal is for who you become in the process of trying to reach that goal. And so I've probably had different motivations. I know the reason I started was just for, I don't want to work for someone else. It didn't fit me. And I wanted to have control over doing work that was meaningful to me. So a reason a lot of people might start a coaching business. I think what that's morphed into is like, how good can I really get at this thing? You know, how far can I take this thing? And I think that if you don't have that curiosity of like, who can I become in the process of this, eventually you're going to lose motivation. Because like the point where I can just make an income doing work that I love, I already hit that point. So if that was like, if I didn't create a new motivation, I would just still be stuck at that point with the original one. And so sometimes you have to be open to evolving. And I think what drives me now is just, I like doing challenging things that force me to grow and so I can contribute more. And so business is a great channel for that. And so when I set goals now, I typically say, all right, this is my goal to hit X K per month so that, you know, I can become the type of CEO that I want to become so that I can contribute more. And it's more of an exercise in personal growth. That's the only motivation I found that keeps people going on an infinite game type journey. Right. It's the difference between like someone might start and say, I want to lose weight. And they start because they just don't like how they look in the mirror. And they're like, if I could just feel good and go to the beach with my family and take my shirt off, like I'm just in pain right now. It's a problem in my life. So that's where as marketers, we kind of have to meet people at that motivation. But at a certain point, like the gym rats who go every day, like they're not motivated by that anymore. They just like, this is something that it's part of my identity. And I like to push myself and I want to see how good I can get. It's a process of improvement. So at this point, that's what it's become for me, just out of necessity, because the vanity stuff isn't super motivating after a certain point. What it gets you isn't super motivating. So I would say it's that who will I become in pursuit of this thing?
Yeah, it's fascinating you mentioned Jim Rohn, because I know that's when I was just getting started in the U.S. Marines. I was about 21 years old, and that was one of my first mentors I met, and I listened to this guy's tapes over and over and over and over again, to the point where I feel like there's like a Jim Rohn in my head. I could always hear the voice just quoting things like it's a set of the sails and those different types of things. But he's a fascinating guy. And one thing you touched on as well too, just listen to yourself, is that you come from a place of you're not competing with anyone else out there. Your motivation is more kind of like an intrinsic motivation, where you come from, hey, the only person I'm competing against is myself. Here's where I'm at today, and what can I do to make myself better? That's really what I've got from you here today, which is I believe that that's something that everyone needs to kind of ascribe to. I believe if we could all come from a place of how do I not really focus too much on what's going on out there and how like what people are saying, all these different things, versus how do I come from in here and figure out who I am and figure out know that there's a better version of me in there, and how do I get there and keep competing against that lower version of ourselves to get up
Yeah.
to that higher level. So
It's
powerful,
well
man.
said, man. I've gone through times where, like, if I don't reset a goal or I don't want to be improving, I just sort of personally start to get depressed and sort of apathetic. So sometimes we have this illusion like, oh, if I could just be comfortable, or I could have this setup where I'm just sort of maintaining without having to do a lot of work, that would be good. But that's not really what we want, because when that starts to happen, we just start to get, there's nothing to live for. That's not how human
Yeah.
beings are wired. So I've realized like I just need to keep setting goals and pushing it, or I'm not going to really be happy.
Yeah, and I'm the same way too, man. Just like I was telling you right before we started, like for me, I try to find stuff like that just pushes me to the brink of, like, I guess you could call it exhaustion or something. Because I mean, if I feel like I'm not, if I can't like consume myself into something, I don't feel like I'm it's even worth it. It's like I think I mentioned with six of these podcast episodes a day for 6 days a week, and I'm probably gonna be doing this for months on end, because that's just that's really what drives me until I find the next thing I'm going to just dedicate my life to, in a sense. So brilliant, man. So I guess before we end here, do you have any final thoughts to share with the audience?
I think that we've covered everything, and I would urge people to take the quiz if that's something you're curious about.
Hmm.
gregfaxon.com/quiz. I actually have a few emails that get sent out after that will give you more details on your archetype. So that's really where I recommend people start. And if people have any questions, they can reach out to me, greg@gregfaxon.com. Happy to help out in any way I can.
Perfect, love it. So guys, listen to this interview. For Greg, I'll have all his links right below. So if any of what he said resonated with you, I would highly recommend reach out, see what he's about, because he has a pretty fascinating view on how to grow a business as well too. Okay. Well, Greg, hey man, thank you so much for making the time. Thank you so much for being there. It's been a pleasure, and looking forward to keeping in touch. Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome.